Welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange. Stories, tools, and wisdom shared by leaders for leaders to help you raise the bar on your own excellence and release the potential inside of you. Now, here's today's show. Welcome. This is the Nonprofit Exchange, and I'm Hugh Ballou, your host. Today, we're exploring a story that changes how we think about waste, poverty, education, and leadership. Our title is When You Think of Trash, Think of Long Way Home. That may sound unusual at first, but our guest today has spent more than 2 decades proving that what many people throw away can become the raw material for schools, job, dignity, environmental stewardship, and community transformation. Matt Paneitz is the founder and executive director of Long Way Home, an organization working in San Juan, and you'll fix this later, Comalapa, Guatemala. Long Way Home uses sustainable design, recycled materials, and project-based education to equip students and communities to solve local problems with local resources. Matt founded A Long Way Home in 2004 to confront poverty, inadequate education, environmental contamination, and limited economic opportunity through sustainable construction and education. Long Way Home is best known for its Hero School, a project-based green-built campus where waste is transformed into classrooms, water systems, retaining walls, and other community assets. Matt's work integrates sustainability, education, local leadership, and practical problem solving to help communities transform discarded materials into lasting foundations for growth. So, Matt, welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange, and back to when you founded this. What was the primary problem you were trying to solve, and what did you misunderstand at the beginning that you now understand better? Welcome.
Well, thank you very much for that amazing introduction. I'd like to offer you a job on the spot to be our spokesperson, to be the executive director. That was amazing. You did your homework, you did it well, you did it succinct. Great job on that. Okay, back to the question. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I could start off saying that I did everything wrong, right? I started the nonprofit from scratch. First thing I did wrong, maybe, was call it Long Way Home, right? Because that does not say anything about what we do. But I was listening to a lot of country music at the time, specifically Dwight Yoakam. The Dwight Yoakam song jumped out at me as I was filling out the paper application at the public library that I mailed in to the government to get our 501c3 status. And the first question was, "What's the name of your organization?" And I said, "Long Way Home," because I was looking through my CDs at the time going, okay, I need a catchy title. And so maybe I would have done that a little bit differently now, so many years later. I think that we would have probably gone about, maybe instead of writing curriculum after we did everything, that we would have done it a little more on the front side, because now we have 178 students pre-K through high school. We've got 27 teachers, and it's a little bit like herding goldfish, trying to get everybody on the same page while they have students, you know? And so, had we potentially hired 27 teachers before we had students, they would have likely had more time for everybody to get on the same page to write all of those lesson plans. The list goes on, right? I may have stayed in the United States a little bit longer to do a little more fundraising, because what I did was sell all of my belongings, including raffling my 1973 Caprice Classic convertible, raffled that, and that was how we started with money. Maybe I would have stayed in the U.S. for a little longer and asked around and tried to fundraise a little bit more. It's kind of difficult from rural Guatemala to raise money.
Yes, 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 yes. Guatemala is a beautiful country in Central America with very, very kind people, a lot of resources, and we do these live interviews, and this is as live as you can get. Matt is in Guatemala. He's in transition to America, and he's currently waiting for a delayed flight. I'm sure we can all relate to that. So, Matt, thank you for jumping through hoops to be on my guest today. So, moving on, um, how did trash become your central theme, your focus?
Well, I may have a little ADHD or some compulsive thing that tells me that whenever I see trash all over the ground, that I need to clean it up. And there is no waste management system really. And when there is, it is, the truck drives around, puts it in the back of the truck, and then throws it into a beautiful ravine, which is quite often the source of the people's drinking water. And we also didn't want to do that. So, as we were producing rubbish, we needed somewhere to put it that was going to be responsible. So, I asked the co founder of Long Way Home, I was telling him, like, we had built a city park. And then I said I would like to get beyond the city park and focus on a little bit more of what's needed. So, we saw too much trash on the ground, wanting to do something with it. And I wanted to scale from building the town's first city park, and so we started accepting, because a lot of the kids couldn't, we were only charging like 30 cents to get in, but a lot of the neighborhoods kids couldn't afford that. So we saw that we could start accepting trash to get into our park. And at the same time, decided that we wanted to go beyond recreation and deal with a lot of the living conditions of the people near us that were living without water. It's called Earthship Volume 1. It was how you build a house out of tires, and that led us to where we are now. And because we were both builders, and most specifically him, he's kind of a genius builder, we started looking into how you could use local materials, combining bamboo and earth bags and plastic blocks, and combine in earth as well, adobe cob, to build classrooms and infrastructure for the people in the town that need it the most.
There's a lot of people I encounter day to day that talk about what we don't have. So, what did this teach you, and what can we learn about some hidden resources that probably are inside every community?
Yeah, and as we started working with the community as well, like, the community itself was a resource. There were endless people within the community that we didn't know before that started stopping by and asking us what we were doing. And then one guy was, a guy that did paperwork, and another guy was an electrician, and another guy was an engineer, and then we had an architect, and then all these people from the community started stopping by, and we did need their help. So we started finding out that there were resources all around us to support our efforts, and that the people were really enjoying this. So, this, like, and it was hard work too, right? And so we saw that, a little bit of resilience went a long way to, like, every time we thought we needed to stop, or, things were getting in the way, it combined into a resilience moment for us, and a lesson, like, keep going, keep trying, keep doing everything you can do.
Let's dig deeper into the hero school. So, help our audience understand the hero school. What makes it different from a conventional school model?
So what we did was, after building all that infrastructure, combining all those materials to build our campus, which harvests water, and at least until our batteries went dead a few months ago, we were using solar power. We filter our water, and so now we took the lessons learned from what we did with the campus and all of those sustainable living techniques, and we decided that we would integrate it into the curriculum so that the students could get a profound experience. So now what we've done is contextualize their education, and there's a lot of educational philosophers like Paulo Freire and John Dewey who said, yes, use the community as your classroom and solve problems. Yeah, the whole concept of hero school is solve societal problems, because maybe the government is not getting to everybody quite fast enough, and that is in no way to speak poorly of anyone. It is that there's a lot of need, and there's not exactly enough people to fill those needs. And so our students have decided, and teachers, that they're going to go out into the community, find out who needs stoves, water tanks, compost latrines, retaining walls, and houses and schools, right? The very basics. And they cross reference this information with what they find at the health clinic. And then they sit in class, in math class, they design their stoves or water tanks. In art class, they make little models and they think about it. And what we've done was spread the issue out across all subject matter, and we still comply with the Ministry of Education standards because they have a competency based education model here, meaning they give you the competency, but you can decide on the activity. Since we could decide on the activity, then we decided to improve community living conditions. And of course, the students are ecstatic about it. They love going out into the community. The teachers love combining theory and practice, as has been described by quite a few educational philosophers as the best way to go about doing this. Their self-esteem is through the roof. They're helping people in real time with real problems and using their education to do it. So it's not boring anymore.
It is not boring, and they're solving real problems, and it's local, right?
Exactly, exactly. And we're starting to spread out a little bit. There's been interest from other schools, other organizations who would also like their school and their education to not necessarily be so boring. They find that throughout Guatemala, throughout Central America, there are a lot of people with a lot of the same issues. They have the trash issues. Excuse me, they have the trash issues. They have the trash issues. They have the living condition issues, and they also want their school to be interesting. And that means that there are schools in other towns that are following up with us to find out how they can replicate our model.
That's leadership in real time. So, community, you talk about community ownership. So let's put it in practical terms, not just as a slogan, which you've proven it's not just a slogan. So, how do you build local leadership capacity so the work is not dependent on just the founders and outside volunteers?
Do you have an hour? Because this is my favorite topic. So, right now, I'm doing a doctorate in education, and I'm specifically investigating how you integrate democratic education into social studies class, right? Because you can build an organization that where you can create policies and procedures and then require everyone to do them, and you don't get as much buy-in.
Mhm.
But if the seventh graders explore their role and you do it systematically and the teachers are involved and the administrators are involved and then they work on this from first grade all the way to the 11th grade, because I'm going to expand down and expand up as soon as I nail the 7th grade curriculum. So then everybody in the school is going to be involved. Everybody will be making all of these decisions. I know that might not sound very efficient, but we're going to sacrifice some efficiency to better understand the ideas that everybody else has, because right now we have sort of a top down structure. The administrators decide what we're doing and how we're going to do it. We want everybody to throw in on this.
I think people's ears can perk up this topic 'cause everybody, this is an issue for everybody. So, how do you know when a project is truly owned by the community?
Well, it's built by students, right? The teachers are guiding the students, the local builders are guiding the students who are guiding the teachers. It is 90% local in the sense that we're using local materials, local trash, but we're not using, oh, yes, in the ministry, I'm sorry, the mayor's office is now paying for a lot of these projects. So some of the money, or at least a large portion of the money, is coming from the local community. And there's only one or two of us that are not locals that are involved in this. So we're getting really close. We might have started off at 50-50. Now we're at 70-20. Next week we'll be at, I'm sorry, now we're 70-30. I missed math class. Soon, we'll be at 80-20, 90-10, and we'll be incrementally working our way towards it being fully a full community endeavor.
That's amazing. So you talked about others are interested. Are you interested in scaling this? And if you do, how do you scale without losing the soul of what you created?
Recently, we've had the support of a couple of engineers, of software engineers. So right now we're building a learning management system. We're adding all of our daily activities. And the reason why teachers would potentially use this is because, like I said, in Guatemala, they have a competency based education system. That means the teachers don't themselves write everyday lesson plans, nor do they have to be reviewed. And it's a burden for them to have to come up with a lot of their own lesson plans, especially when a lot of them have second
Okay,
jobs.
Matt, we were talking about we're having technical challenges in today. So if you see some hiccups in this recording, it's my editing, and Matt's bending over backwards to make this work, where his signal is not very strong. So we're talking about expanding the work, and what are the barriers in expanding this work and scaling? So Matt, you were talking about that.
Yeah, my passion, I think it heats up my phone about this topic, and then my phone overheats. So my apologies with that. So, anyways, going back to, yeah, we're building a learning management system. The teachers in Guatemala, they're burdened by the fact that they have to write their own competencies for their classes, and then they quite often don't do it. So that has opened up a space for us to write daily curricular activities, right? And so we created this learning management system that is our project based methodology. And now the teachers around town have told us that they're very interested in having access. And they're even buying a lot of lesson plans these days. So they have a lot of interest in the lesson plans. They want the methodology. There was recently an award that we won called the Rio Montagua Award, the Eco Reto Challenge, in which people are trying to figure out how to deal with all the trash that are ending up in the rivers and going out to the Caribbean and ending up in the ocean. And so a lot of those organizations are interested in what we're doing. You know, we're doing it organically from the ground up. We're building interest, proving what we're doing. We're proving what we're doing as we're doing it.
And you've learned a lot of things. So, if our audience members want to bring this mindset to their own community, where should they begin?
lwhome.org.
That's for a long way home. lwhome.org. You can learn more about the organization that Matt founded. There's volunteer opportunities. There's ways to support, time, talent, money, or multiple ways to support. Guatemala is a very unique place. I particularly favor their coffee, very rich, deep, flavorful coffee. But there's a lot of really precious things about the people and the resources. And Matt, you have a passion for this work. I can see that in the way you talk about it.
Yeah, I care a lot. I care about the people. There are brothers and sisters. They've had a tough time. They're in on the whole thing as far as they want to improve what's going on in their society. And what's so amazing about them, and what keeps bringing us back, is the folks here will work 11 hours. They'll eat a very minor amount of food if that's all they have, and they'll be singing and smiling the entire time, right? And so I am drawn to that kind of work ethic and that kind of collaboration.
Are you up to some rapid fire questions with short answers to end this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Finish the sentence. Trash becomes transformation when.
When we turn it into infrastructure that families can use to improve their living conditions.
What do you wish people understood about poverty that they often miss?
That it is a complex issue, that it is difficult to get out of the cycle, that there is no middle class here. And if there's no social services, then it is very difficult, especially for women who don't have access to education. To they get stuck in this cycle.
So what's the difference between helping a community and building with a community?
Is that we've been here for 24 years, right? I first was in the Peace Corps in 2022. We've taken it slow. We've worked ourselves in. We've tried to understand the culture, learn the language, listened, right? You got to listen and take your time if indeed you do have that time, and we've made the time.
This is fun. I'm going to do a few more. What does long way home prove is possible?
Well, if I can do it, because there's truly nothing special about me, I'm an average Joe, really, when it comes down to it. And so I, in Long Way Home, proved that average people, because, Matthew McConaughey never donated, or he hasn't yet. We haven't gotten that gigantic donation. We're a bunch of people who care, and we're doing it, at a pretty small level. And so, yeah, we can do it. Anybody can.
What leadership lesson has this project taught you?
That I need to read a lot, that I need to listen, that I need to study, that I need to do my homework. I need to keep trying, keep listening, and always be ready to improve. And that's part of what the doctoral program is. They're putting me through the ringer, right? My professors are asking me questions that I don't normally think about on my own.
Um, what mistake made you stronger?
The mistake of, oh my God, there's so many mistakes. So when we first built one of our tire buildings, we packed the tires too much, right? And so that made the walls sort of unsteady. So then we had to unpack hundreds of tires, take all of the walls down, and start over. What that told me was slow down, pay attention, try things out, because sometimes we get in a big hurry. We want to get everything done as fast as we can. There's the value to slowing down.
Whoa, that's a good soundbite right there. What phrase do you repeat often to your team members there?
Have you ever seen the movie 300?
No.
Right? That is when the Spartans are marching off to fight Xerxes. And so I'm kind of cheesy in the way that I think that that's why we named it Hero School. Is we want to be the heroes in our town that take care of everybody. We consider Xerxes poverty. So as we walk around school, I will say, "Students, what is your profession?" And everybody answers, "Ow, ow, ow," which is something you would hear from the movie 300, which I imagine a lot of your listeners have probably seen. So our motto is "Ow, ow, ow."
Who has shaped your leadership? Book, person, speech, whatever. Who shaped your leadership?
Well, I got to see my mom as a pretty good example. She was a single mom and she worked hard. So that work ethic, my entire family, my aunts, my uncles, my grandparents, they're all hard workers. And I needed that example of hard work. And then I go into, the other realm of the philosophers, and to see all the work that they put into asking tons of questions, spending their entire lives trying to answer them, and a lot of skepticism. And so now where I kind of was like, drawn back from skepticism, or I was a little offended by it. Now I'm drawn towards it because I want people to ask hard questions. And then you have MLK, and then you have Nelson Mandela, and all these gigantic names who sacrificed their lives for these causes.
Well put. Well put. This has been a lot of powerful information. And despite the interruptions, you've managed to communicate a lot of value for your organization. So you've helped us see that trash is not only an environmental challenge, it's also a leadership test. So if we just see what's broken or discarded or useless, maybe we can look at it and see possibility because of this. Long Way Home reminds us that communities already hold many of the resources needed for transformation. So the work is organizing it, having a vision, building trust, educating leaders. So you've inspired me to think differently about things. So for our audience, I want you to go to Long Way Home at lwhome.org, O-R-G. Learn about the Hero School, explore the green building work, and consider how you might support or partner with this mission. So Matt, what parting word do you want to leave people with?
If you'll email me at matt@lwhome.org, I will respond within 30 seconds. And know that we need everybody across every field: poets, mechanics, architects, a librarian, right? We are as strong as we are because of the diversity of people that have been involved in our organization. And I'm talking about people from all over the world. You may not think that you got much, but we can use that. If you can pick up a shovel, we can work with everybody's skill set.
Well, and everybody's looking for the same stuff. But I've found that even though we're pretty heavily working in our own organization, volunteering outside of our work to help others helps us learn about ourselves. And if we all helped with each other's projects, my, how much better it would be. So, trash is not the end of the story. I've learned it in the right hands becomes a foundation for something new. So, Matthew, you go by Matt, thank you for taking time in your travels and against technical odds. So, to be our guest today for the Nonprofit Exchange, thank you for taking the extra effort to be on the show today.
Thank you for watching the Nonprofit Exchange.